My friends, I want to share with you a story that changed the trajectory of my entire life's work, and perhaps, if you allow it, will change yours as well. It was the winter of 1908, and I was a young journalist barely making ends meet when I received what seemed like an impossible assignment. I was to interview the great Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who had built one of America's greatest fortunes. But there was something peculiar about this meeting that I didn't understand at the time. As I sat in Carnegie's luxurious library in New York, surrounded by leather-bound volumes and the scent of success, he posed a question that would haunt me for decades to come. "Young Hill," he said, leaning forward with those piercing eyes, "I have observed that most people possess everything they need to succeed, yet they consistently delay taking the actions that would guarantee their success. Why do you suppose that is?" I fumbled for an answer, offering platitudes about fear and uncertainty, but Carnegie wasn't satisfied. He continued, "What if I told you that the single greatest enemy of human achievement isn't lack of opportunity, isn't lack of talent, and isn't even lack of resources?" He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "What if I told you that the greatest enemy is the human tendency to postpone action indefinitely?" That conversation lasted 3 days and nights. 3 days that would lead to 20 years of intensive research, 500 interviews with America's most successful individuals, and the discovery of principles that have transformed millions of lives worldwide. But here's what Carnegie revealed to me in those pivotal moments that most people never discover. Procrastination isn't just a bad habit. It's a systematic destroyer of dreams, a silent assassin of potential, and the primary reason why 95% of people retire financially dependent on others. Through my extensive interviews with titans of industry like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Theodore Roosevelt, and John D. Rockefeller, I uncovered a startling truth. Every single one of these remarkable individuals had mastered something that the average person struggles with daily: the ability to transmute thought into immediate, decisive action. Today, I'm going to share with you the exact methodology these masters used to eliminate procrastination forever. Not just reduce it, not just manage it, but completely eradicate it from their mental landscape. You see, my friend, procrastination isn't about time management or productivity techniques. It's about understanding the fundamental principles that govern human behavior and learning to align your actions with your deepest desires and definite purpose. The price of delay. During my research, I documented something profound. I tracked individuals who possessed identical opportunities, similar backgrounds, and comparable intelligence levels. The only significant difference between those who achieved extraordinary success and those who lived lives of quiet desperation was their relationship with immediate action. Take the case of 2 young men I interviewed in Chicago in 1925. Both had brilliant business ideas, both had access to the same resources, both had the same 24 hours in each day. One consistently took immediate action on his inspirations, while the other habitually delayed, always waiting for the perfect moment. 5 years later, one had built a manufacturing empire worth millions, while the other was still talking about his someday plans while working for someone else. This wasn't coincidence. This was the inevitable result of understanding and applying what I came to call the law of immediate implementation. Your transformation begins now. In the next hour together, you're going to discover the 7 fundamental principles that every master of achievement uses to eliminate procrastination permanently. You'll learn the exact mental conditioning techniques used by Edison to generate over 1,000 patents, the decision-making framework employed by Ford to revolutionize industry, and the daily practices that Carnegie credited for his unprecedented success. But more importantly, you'll understand why everything you've been taught about overcoming procrastination has been backwards, and how the masters approach this challenge from an entirely different perspective. By the time we're finished, you'll possess a systematic approach to instant action that will serve you for the remainder of your life. Are you ready to join the ranks of the action takers, the decision makers, and the achievers? Then let's begin this transformation together. Principle 1. The Definite Purpose Foundation. The missing foundation. Through my 20 years of intensive research, one pattern emerged above all others. Every individual who had mastered the art of immediate action possessed something that procrastinators invariably lacked: A burning, all-consuming, definite purpose. When I interviewed Henry Ford about his remarkable ability to make instant decisions and take immediate action, he shared something profound. Hill, he said, most people procrastinate because they're trying to take action without a clear destination. It's like asking someone to run as fast as they can without telling them where the finish line is located. This revelation led me to study the relationship between purpose and action more deeply. What I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about human motivation. The Ford revelation. Ford told me about the early days of his automobile experiments. While other inventors and tinkerers were also working on horseless carriages, most of them approached their work casually, as a hobby or side project. They would work when they felt like it, postpone difficult tasks, and allow other activities to take priority. But Ford was different. He had crystallized his purpose into what he called his definite major aim. He didn't just want to build a car, he wanted to democratize transportation and put America on wheels. This wasn't merely a goal, it was a mission that consumed his every waking moment. When your purpose burns hot enough, Ford explained, procrastination becomes impossible. Every moment you delay feels like betraying your deepest self. Action becomes as natural and necessary as breathing. The Carnegie Principle. Carnegie expanded on this concept during our conversations. He revealed that he had observed this pattern in every successful person he'd encountered. The moment a person develops a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its achievement, he said, that person's entire nervous system reorganizes itself around immediate action. He shared the example of one of his top executives who had been known for chronic delays and missed deadlines. This executive's entire personality changed overnight when he discovered his definite purpose to become financially independent so he could provide security for his aging parents. Suddenly, every task became urgent because it directly connected to his deeper mission. Procrastination disappeared because delay meant postponing his parents' security. Within 2 years, this formerly unreliable employee had become one of Carnegie's most valuable assets, the Edison approach. Perhaps no one exemplified this principle more dramatically than Thomas Edison. During my interviews with the great inventor, he revealed his systematic approach to eliminating procrastination through purpose alignment. Edison told me, most people think I'm successful because I'm naturally energetic or because I don't need much sleep. The truth is simpler and more profound. I've learned to connect every single task, no matter how mundane, to my overarching purpose of illuminating the world and improving human life. He described his daily practice of what he called purpose visualization. Every morning before beginning work, Edison would spend 10 minutes visualizing how each day's activities connected to his larger mission. This practice transformed routine tasks into sacred work and made procrastination psychologically impossible. When you truly understand that delaying action means delaying the betterment of humanity, Edison explained, delay becomes a form of moral failure that your conscience won't permit. Implementing the definite purpose principle. Based on my research with these masters, here's the exact process they use to eliminate procrastination through definite purpose. Step 1. The Purpose Discovery Session. Set aside 1 uninterrupted hour for this critical exercise. Ask yourself these specific questions that I developed from my interviews with successful individuals. What achievement would make you feel that your life had profound meaning and significance? What contribution could you make that would improve conditions for others? What would you attempt if you knew failure was impossible? Write your answers without editing or censoring. Let your deepest desires surface naturally. Step 2. The Burning Desire Test. Carnegie taught me that a true definite purpose creates what he called burning desire. Here's how to test if your purpose meets this standard. Does thinking about achieving this purpose fill you with excitement and energy? Would you be willing to persist in pursuing this purpose for 10 years without guaranteed success? Does the thought of not achieving this purpose create genuine emotional pain? If your answer to any of these questions is no, your purpose needs refinement until it ignites genuine passion. Step 3. The Daily Connection Ritual. Edison's approach was to begin each day by connecting every planned activity to his definite purpose. This practice trains your subconscious mind to see all action as meaningful and urgent. Each morning, review your day's tasks and explicitly identify how each one advances your definite purpose. This simple practice transforms mundane activities into crucial steps toward your ultimate destination, the subconscious reprogramming. What these masters discovered, and what modern psychology has since confirmed, is that procrastination is largely a subconscious phenomenon. When your subconscious mind perceives an activity as meaningless or disconnected from your core values, it generates resistance. But when every action connects to your burning definite purpose, your subconscious becomes your ally rather than your enemy. It begins generating motivation and urgency automatically, making immediate action feel natural and necessary. This is why people can procrastinate on important tasks for months, yet work tirelessly on projects connected to their deepest passions. The difference isn't willpower, it's purpose alignment. Principle 2. The Mastermind Accountability System. The Carnegie Discovery. During my extensive conversations with Andrew Carnegie, he revealed one of his most closely guarded secrets for maintaining consistent action and eliminating procrastination. He called it his Mastermind Accountability System, and it was based on a profound understanding of human psychology. Hill, Carnegie explained during one of our late-night discussions, most people fail to take consistent action because they only answer to themselves. And unfortunately, we are remarkably lenient judges of our own behavior. We accept excuses from ourselves that we would never accept from others. This observation led Carnegie to develop what became one of his most powerful success strategies. He surrounded himself with a carefully selected group of individuals who shared his commitment to achievement and who held him accountable for his stated intentions. The psychology of external accountability. Carnegie's insight was revolutionary for its time, but has since been validated by decades of psychological research. When we make private commitments to ourselves, our subconscious mind understands that there are no real consequences for failing to follow through. We can always make excuses, rationalize delays, or simply change our minds without external repercussions. But when we make public commitments to people we respect, and whose opinions matter to us, an entirely different psychological mechanism activates. Carnegie discovered that the human nervous system is wired to avoid social embarrassment and maintain consistency with our public statements. The fear of disappointing respected colleagues, Carnegie told me, is often more powerful than the desire for personal success. When you harness this principle correctly, procrastination becomes psychologically uncomfortable, while immediate action becomes the path of least resistance. The Ford Accountability Partnership. Henry Ford implemented Carnegie's principle in his own unique way. He formed what he called an achievement partnership with a small group of ambitious individuals who met weekly to report on their progress and commitments. Ford described the psychological impact. Knowing that I would have to face my partners every Wednesday evening and report on my promised actions completely transformed my daily behavior. I found myself taking action not just because I wanted to succeed, but because I couldn't bear the thought of admitting that I had wasted another week through delay and excuses. The genius of Ford's system was its simplicity and its psychological precision. Each partner would make specific commitments for the following week, write them down in front of the group, and begin the next meeting by reporting their results. No judgments, no criticism, just honest accountability. The Edison implementation. Thomas Edison took this principle even further by creating what he called his public promise system. Edison would announce his major projects and their completion dates to newspaper reporters, creating massive public accountability for his commitments. When the entire world knows that you've promised to deliver the incandescent light bulb by a specific date, Edison explained, procrastination becomes impossible. Every delay becomes public failure, while immediate action becomes the only path to maintaining your reputation and self-respect. Edison's approach was bold, but it produced remarkable results. The public pressure he created for himself eliminated the luxury of delay and forced him to maintain consistent forward progress on his most important projects. The Mastermind selection process. Based on my research with these success masters, here are the specific criteria they used for selecting accountability partners. Criterion 1. Shared commitment to achievement. Your accountability partners must be individuals who take their own success seriously. People who make excuses for their own lack of progress will enable your procrastination rather than challenge it. Carnegie emphasized that accountability partners should be achievers in their own right, people whose opinions you genuinely value and whose respect you want to maintain. Criterion 2. Honest communication style. Look for individuals who can provide direct feedback without being harsh or judgmental. The ideal accountability partner combines supportive encouragement with honest assessment of your progress and excuses. Criterion 3. Regular availability. Consistency is crucial for accountability systems. Your partners must be available for regular check-ins, whether weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Sporadic accountability is almost worthless for eliminating procrastination patterns. Implementing the accountability system. Here's the exact framework these masters developed for creating effective accountability relationships. Every week, preferably on Sunday evening, make specific written commitments for the following week. These commitments should be concrete, measurable, and directly connected to your definite purpose. Share these commitments with your accountability partners via mail, text, or in person. The act of communicating your intentions externally activates the psychological mechanisms that make follow-through more likely. The progress report meeting. Schedule a specific time each week to report your results to your accountability partner. This can be a phone call, video chat, or in-person meeting, but it must be consistent and structured. Begin each meeting by reviewing your previous week's commitments and honestly reporting your results. No excuses, no justifications, just factual reporting of what you accomplished and what remained undone. The consequence system. Carnegie discovered that accountability works best when there are real consequences for unfulfilled commitments. These don't need to be severe, but they should be meaningful enough to create genuine motivation for follow-through. Some examples. If you fail to complete your weekly commitments, you contribute a specific amount to a charity you dislike, write a public apology on social media, or perform a favor for your accountability partner. The subconscious reprogramming effect. What these masters understood intuitively, and what science has since proven, is that external accountability literally rewires your brain's approach to commitment and action. When you know that others are counting on you and watching your progress, your subconscious mind begins treating your commitments as sacred obligations rather than optional preferences. This psychological shift makes immediate action feel necessary, while procrastination feels uncomfortable and unacceptable. The result is a fundamental transformation in your relationship with commitment and follow-through that extends far beyond your accountability partnership into every area of your life. Principle 3. The Decisive Moment Mastery. The Roosevelt Revelation. During my research into the habits of highly successful individuals, I had the extraordinary opportunity to interview President Theodore Roosevelt about his legendary decisiveness. What Roosevelt revealed about decision-making completely revolutionized my understanding of why some people take immediate action while others procrastinate indefinitely. Roosevelt said during our conversation in his study, most people fundamentally misunderstand the nature of decision-making. They believe that decisions should be made slowly, after careful consideration of every possible factor and outcome. This approach virtually guarantees procrastination and missed opportunities. Roosevelt explained that he had discovered something remarkable during his years in business and politics. The quality of a decision is largely independent of the time spent making it. In fact, he had observed that quick decisions, based on sufficient information and clear principles, were often superior to decisions made after lengthy deliberation. The paralysis of perfect information, the fatal flaw in most people's decision-making process, Roosevelt continued, is the belief that they can eliminate uncertainty through extended analysis. They postpone action while waiting for perfect information that will never come. Roosevelt shared an example from his business career that illustrated this principle powerfully. He and a competitor had identified the same lucrative opportunity simultaneously. Both had access to similar information and resources. The competitor spent 6 months conducting additional research and analysis, while Roosevelt made his decision within 1 week and began implementation immediately. By the time my competitor finished his research, the opportunity had passed, and I had already captured the entire market, Roosevelt explained. His extended analysis added nothing valuable to his decision-making while costing him everything he had hoped to gain. The Carnegie Decision Framework. Andrew Carnegie had developed what he called his sufficient information principle for making rapid decisions without recklessness. Carnegie explained that most decisions could be made effectively with approximately 70% of available information. Waiting for additional information beyond the 70% threshold, Carnegie told me, rarely improves decision quality but always increases opportunity cost. The masters of achievement understand that taking action with good information is superior to perfect preparation without action. Carnegie's framework involved three simple questions. Do I have enough information to make a reasonable decision? Will additional delay provide significantly better information? Does the potential benefit of waiting outweigh the certain cost of delay? If the answers were yes, no, and no respectively, Carnegie made his decision immediately and moved into action phase. The Ford speed principle. Henry Ford had perhaps the most systematic approach to rapid decision-making that I encountered in my research. Ford had observed that the speed of decision-making often determined the ultimate success or failure of an enterprise. In business and in life, Ford explained, opportunities have expiration dates. While you're deliberating, someone else is acting. While you're researching, someone else is implementing. While you're planning, someone else is succeeding. Ford's approach was to make decisions as quickly as possible while maintaining reasonable prudence. He would gather essential information rapidly, consult with one or two trusted advisors, and then commit to a course of action within hours or days rather than weeks or months. I would rather make 10 decisions quickly and be wrong on 3 of them than make one decision slowly and miss 9 opportunities, Ford told me. Quick decisions can be corrected through action, but missed opportunities are gone forever. The Edison experimental mindset. Thomas Edison brought a unique perspective to decision-making that completely eliminated the paralysis that affects most people. Edison viewed every decision not as a permanent commitment, but as an experiment to be tested and refined. Most people procrastinate on decisions because they believe they must be perfect and permanent, Edison explained. I make decisions quickly because I understand that decisions are simply hypotheses to be tested through action. Edison's approach transformed the psychological pressure associated with decision-making. Instead of needing to make the right decision, he simply needed to make a reasonable decision and then test its validity through implementation. If a decision proves incorrect, I learn valuable information and make a better decision, Edison said. If a decision proves correct, I gain forward momentum and competitive advantage. Either outcome is superior to indefinite delay. The science of decision fatigue. What these masters understood intuitively has since been validated by neuroscience research. The human brain has limited decision-making capacity, and this capacity decreases throughout the day. Extended deliberation doesn't improve decision quality, it depletes mental resources needed for implementation and follow-through. Carnegie, Ford, Roosevelt, and Edison had all discovered that rapid decision-making preserved mental energy for execution, while extended deliberation created exhaustion that led to procrastination. Implementing decisive moment mastery. Based on my research with these achievement masters, here's their systematic approach to eliminating decision-related procrastination. The sufficient information assessment. Before making any significant decision, quickly assess your information level using this framework. What are the potential outcomes of this decision? What additional information could realistically be obtained? How long would obtaining this information take? What opportunities might be lost during this delay? If you have enough information to make a reasonable decision, and additional research would create significant delay, make your decision immediately. The reversibility test. Edison's approach to reducing decision pressure was to assess the reversibility of each decision. He categorized decisions as either reversible or irreversible. For reversible decisions, he made them quickly because they could be modified through experience. For irreversible decisions, he invested more time in analysis, but still maintained strict time limits to prevent indefinite delay. The implementation commitment. Roosevelt's approach was to treat every decision as a commitment to immediate action. The moment he made a decision, he would identify the first 3 actions required for implementation and begin executing them immediately. A decision without immediate action is merely a wish, Roosevelt explained. True decisions are demonstrated through behavior, not just intellectual commitment. The compound effect of decisiveness. What all these masters discovered was that decisiveness creates a compound effect that extends far beyond individual decisions. Each quick decision builds confidence and momentum for future decisions. Each successful implementation strengthens the neural pathways associated with rapid action. Over time, decisive individuals develop what I call action momentum, a psychological state where taking immediate action becomes more natural and comfortable than delay and deliberation. This momentum eliminates procrastination at its source by making action the path of least psychological resistance. Principle 4. The emotional mastery system. The hidden enemy of action. During my comprehensive interviews with America's most successful individuals, I made a startling discovery about the true root cause of procrastination. While most people attribute delay to laziness, poor time management, or lack of motivation, the masters revealed something far more profound and actionable. John D. Rockefeller, during one of our private conversations, shared an insight that changed my entire understanding of human behavior. Hill, he said, procrastination is never really about the task itself. It's always about the emotions associated with the task. People don't delay action, they delay feeling. This revelation led me to investigate the emotional patterns of chronic procrastinators versus consistent achievers. What I discovered was that successful individuals had developed systematic approaches to managing their emotional states, while unsuccessful people remained victims of their fluctuating feelings. The Carnegie emotional intelligence. Andrew Carnegie had perhaps the most sophisticated understanding of emotional mastery that I encountered in my research. Carnegie explained that he had observed two distinct types of people in business and life: those who acted based on their emotions and those who acted in spite of their emotions. The fundamental difference between successful and unsuccessful people, Carnegie told me, is not their intelligence, their opportunities, or their resources. It's their ability to take necessary action regardless of how they feel in the moment. Carnegie described what he called emotional independence, the ability to maintain consistent behavior patterns regardless of emotional fluctuations. He had developed specific techniques for achieving this independence that he credited for much of his extraordinary success. The Ford system of emotional discipline. Henry Ford approached emotional mastery from an engineering perspective, treating emotions as forces to be understood and directed rather than obeyed. Ford had observed that emotions were often poor guides for action because they were typically based on immediate circumstances rather than long-term objectives. I learned early in my career, Ford explained, that if I only took action when I felt motivated, enthusiastic, and confident, I would accomplish very little. Success requires action, especially when you don't feel like taking action. Ford developed what he called his emotional override protocol, a systematic approach to taking necessary action, regardless of his current emotional state. This protocol became one of his most valuable personal assets and a key factor in his unprecedented industrial achievements. The Roosevelt courage cultivation. Theodore Roosevelt brought a unique perspective to emotional mastery through his systematic cultivation of courage and bold action. Roosevelt had discovered that courage wasn't the absence of fear or uncertainty, but the ability to act appropriately despite these natural emotions. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people, Roosevelt shared, is not that successful people don't feel fear, doubt, or reluctance. It's that they have trained themselves to act correctly in the presence of these emotions. Roosevelt described his daily practices for building what he called emotional resilience, the capacity to maintain effective action regardless of internal emotional weather. The Edison Emotional Laboratory. Thomas Edison approached emotional mastery as he approached his scientific experiments, with curiosity, systematic observation, and continuous refinement. Edison had documented his emotional patterns and their relationship to his productivity and innovation. I discovered that my emotions followed predictable patterns, Edison explained, and that I could influence these patterns through specific practices and mental disciplines. Once I understood the science of my own emotional responses, I could optimize them for maximum achievement. Edison's approach was remarkably practical and resulted in techniques that anyone could implement regardless of their natural temperament or current emotional habits. The physiology of procrastination. What these masters understood intuitively has since been validated by neuroscience research. Procrastination is primarily an emotional regulation problem, not a time management problem. When we anticipate negative emotions associated with a task, our brain's limbic system triggers avoidance behaviors designed to protect us from psychological discomfort. The masters had all discovered that emotional states could be consciously influenced through specific physical and mental practices. They had learned to create the emotional states that supported immediate action rather than waiting for these states to occur naturally. Implementing the emotional mastery system. Based on my research with these achievement masters, here are their proven techniques for eliminating emotion-based procrastination. The Carnegie Emotional Preview Techniques. Carnegie's approach was to mentally rehearse successful task completion before beginning any challenging activity. He would spend 5 minutes visualizing himself performing the task competently, feeling satisfied with his progress, and experiencing the positive emotions associated with completion. This technique, Carnegie explained, pre-programs your emotional system for success rather than allowing it to define default to anxiety and avoidance. By the time you begin the actual task, your emotions are already aligned with achievement rather than resistance. The Ford physical state management. Ford had discovered that emotional states were directly connected to physical states and that changing physical posture, breathing, and movement could instantly influence emotional experience. Before tackling challenging or unpleasant tasks, Ford would perform what he called his success posture sequence. Stand tall with shoulders back, take 5 deep breaths, and make strong eye contact with himself in a mirror while stating his intention to complete the task excellently. This simple practice, Ford explained, shifts your entire nervous system from avoidance mode to achievement mode within minutes. The Roosevelt Progressive Exposure Method. Roosevelt's approach to overcoming task-related anxiety and resistance was systematic exposure to increasingly challenging activities. He would deliberately seek out tasks that made him uncomfortable and practice taking immediate action despite his emotional resistance. Like building physical strength through progressive weight training, Roosevelt explained, you can build emotional strength through progressive challenge training. Each successful action in the face of resistance builds your capacity for future bold action. The Edison emotional state anchoring. Edison had developed a technique for instantly accessing productive emotional states through what modern psychology calls anchoring. He would identify his peak performance emotional states and create specific physical triggers that could instantly recreate these states when needed. Edison's personal anchor was a specific hand position combined with a phrase he would repeat, "I am an inventor, and inventors solve problems through persistent action." This combination would instantly shift his emotional state from resistance to curiosity and determination. The daily emotional conditioning practice. All of these masters maintained daily practices for conditioning their emotional responses to support immediate action rather than procrastination. Their approach was proactive rather than reactive. They built emotional strength during calm periods so it would be available during challenging periods. The morning emotional preparation ritual. Each master began their day with specific practices designed to create emotional states supportive of achievement and action. These practices typically included physical movement to generate energy and confidence, mental rehearsal of successful task completion, reviewing their definite purpose to maintain emotional connection to their deepest motivations, positive self-talk to establish supportive internal dialogue for the day ahead. The evening emotional review process. Each evening, the masters would review their emotional patterns from the day and identify opportunities for improvement. This review process included identifying moments when emotions supported or hindered effective action, recognizing emotional triggers that led to procrastination or delay, planning specific strategies for managing similar emotional challenges in the future, celebrating instances when they took appropriate action despite emotional resistance. Principle 5. The environment design strategy. The overlooked success factor. During my extensive research into the habits and practices of highly successful individuals, I discovered a success factor that most people completely overlook. While interviewing captains of industry about their ability to maintain consistent action and eliminate procrastination, a pattern emerged that surprised even me. Every single master of achievement had systematically designed their physical environment to support immediate action and make procrastination practically impossible. They understood something profound about human psychology. Our environment shapes our behavior more powerfully than our willpower. The Carnegie environmental philosophy. Andrew Carnegie shared with me his fundamental principle of environmental design during one of our conversations in his meticulously organized office. "Hill," he said, gesturing to his surroundings, "most people try to succeed in spite of their environment. Masters of achievement succeed because of their environment." Carnegie explained that he had observed a direct correlation between the organization and design of a person's workspace and their level of achievement. Your environment is constantly communicating messages to your subconscious mind about what kind of person you are and what kinds of actions are expected. He had designed every aspect of his work environment to reinforce his identity as a decisive, action-oriented achiever. His desk was always clear except for the single most important task requiring his attention. His office contained visual reminders of his major goals and the people who depended on his success. When everything in your environment supports immediate action, Carnegie explained, taking action becomes as natural as breathing. When your environment supports delay and distraction, procrastination becomes inevitable. the Ford Efficiency Laboratory. Henry Ford approached environmental design with the same systematic thinking he applied to manufacturing processes. Ford had studied the relationship between physical environment and productivity, both in factories and in personal workspaces. I discovered that small changes in environmental design could produce massive changes in behavior and results, Ford told me. The same person who procrastinates in a cluttered, disorganized space becomes highly productive in a properly designed environment. Ford's approach was to eliminate what he called friction points, environmental factors that made starting tasks difficult or unpleasant. He would also create what he termed action triggers, environmental cues that automatically prompted appropriate behavior. The Edison innovation environment. Thomas Edison had perhaps the most sophisticated understanding of environmental design for sustained creative action. Edison's famous Menlo Park laboratory was carefully designed to support continuous innovation and eliminate the barriers that typically led to procrastination. Most people's environments are designed for comfort and relaxation, Edison explained, but comfort is the enemy of achievement. I designed my environment to be stimulating, challenging, and conducive to immediate action on important work. Edison's laboratory contained no comfortable seating, no distracting entertainment, and no spaces designed for rest or relaxation. Instead, every element was designed to support focused work, collaborative thinking, and rapid experimentation. The psychology of environmental influence. What these masters understood intuitively has since been validated by extensive psychological research. Our brains are constantly scanning our environment for cues about appropriate behavior. These environmental cues influence our decisions and actions far more than most people realize. When our environment contains cues associated with productivity and achievement, our subconscious mind automatically generates motivation and focus. When our environment contains cues associated with relaxation and entertainment, our subconscious mind generates resistance to demanding tasks. The visual cueing system. All of the masters I interviewed used what modern psychology calls visual cueing to trigger appropriate behavior automatically. They strategically placed visual reminders of their goals, their purposes, and their commitments throughout their environment. Carnegie kept photographs of people whose success he admired visible on his desk. Ford displayed charts showing his progress toward major objectives. Edison surrounded himself with examples of successful inventions to maintain inspiration for continued innovation. When you see reminders of achievement and action everywhere you look, Carnegie explained, your mind stays focused on achievement and action. When you see reminders of entertainment and comfort, your mind stays focused on entertainment and comfort, implementing the environment design strategy. Based on my research with these achievement masters, here's their systematic approach to creating environments that eliminate procrastination. The distraction elimination audit. The first step in environmental design is identifying and removing elements that trigger procrastination or delay. The masters were ruthless in eliminating environmental distractions that could derail their focus and momentum. Walk through your primary work environment and identify every element that could potentially distract you from important tasks. This includes visual distractions, auditory distractions, and physical objects that trigger non-productive behavior. The action trigger installation. The masters strategically placed environmental cues that automatically triggered productive behavior. These action triggers worked by creating automatic associations between environmental stimuli and appropriate actions. Place visual reminders of your most important goals in locations where you'll see them frequently throughout the day. Position your most important work materials in the most accessible locations. Create physical barriers between yourself and potential distractions. The workspace optimization protocol. Ford's approach was to design workspaces that made starting important tasks as effortless as possible. He eliminated what he called startup friction, the small obstacles that make beginning work psychologically difficult. Organize your workspace so that everything needed for your most important tasks is immediately accessible. Eliminate the need to search for materials, clear space, or make decisions before beginning productive work. Keep your workspace clean and organized at all times. A cluttered environment sends subconscious messages that support scattered thinking and delayed action. The environmental energy management. Edison discovered that environmental factors like lighting, temperature, and air quality significantly affected energy levels and decision-making capacity. He optimized these factors to maintain peak performance throughout the day. Ensure your work environment has excellent lighting, preferably natural light when possible. Maintain comfortable but slightly cool temperatures that support alertness rather than drowsiness. Include plants or other natural elements that support mental clarity and emotional well-being. The social environment factor. Beyond physical environment, the masters also carefully carefully designed their social environment to support immediate action and eliminate procrastination. They understood that the people in their immediate environment either supported or undermined their commitment to achievement. Carnegie surrounded himself with individuals who shared his commitment to excellence and immediate action. "Show me a person's closest associates," Carnegie said, "and I'll show you their future level of achievement." The associate evaluation process. The masters regularly evaluated their social environment using these criteria. Do the people in my immediate environment support or discourage immediate action? Do they model the behaviors I want to develop in myself? Do they challenge me to maintain high standards and consistent performance? When they identified relationships that undermined their commitment to achievement, they either transformed these relationships or reduced their influence. The accountability environment. Edison created what he called public accountability environments, where his commitments and progress were visible to others. This environmental design made procrastination socially uncomfortable while making consistent action socially rewarding. Create environments where your commitments and progress are visible to people whose opinions you value. This might include progress charts, public commitments, or regular reporting to accountability partners. Principle 6. The Momentum Multiplication Method. The compound effect of action. During my 20 years of research into the success principles of America's greatest achievers, I discovered something remarkable about the nature of action and momentum. While interviewing titans of industry about their extraordinary productivity, I learned that they had all mastered something I came to call the momentum multiplication method. Theodore Roosevelt explained this principle with characteristic clarity during one of our discussions. Hill, he said, "Most people fundamentally misunderstand the relationship between action and motivation. They believe motivation must precede action, but the masters understand that action creates motivation." This insight revolutionized my understanding of human psychology and provided the key to eliminating procrastination permanently. The reverse psychology of motivation. What Roosevelt and the other masters had discovered was that motivation is not a prerequisite for action, but rather a consequence of action. They had learned to create motivation through movement rather than waiting for motivation to create movement. Carnegie shared a profound observation about this principle. The human nervous system is designed to generate energy and enthusiasm in response to forward progress, not in response to intention or planning. He explained that he had observed this pattern consistently in his business operations. Employees who took small actions immediately became more motivated and productive, while employees who spent time planning and preparing often became less motivated and more prone to procrastination. The Ford momentum system. Henry Ford had developed perhaps the most systematic approach to momentum creation that I encountered in my research. Ford understood that momentum was not accidental, but could be deliberately created and sustained through specific practices. "I learned that the first action of the day determines the quality of the entire day," Ford explained. "If I began with immediate action on important work, momentum carried me through challenging tasks. If I began with delay or distraction, the entire day suffered from low energy and poor decisions." Ford's approach was to begin each day with what he called momentum builders, small actions that created immediate forward progress and generated psychological energy for larger tasks. The Edison Progressive Action Principle. Thomas Edison had discovered something remarkable about the relationship between task difficulty and motivation. Rather than starting with easy tasks to build confidence, Edison deliberately started with moderately challenging tasks that required genuine effort but were achievable. Easy tasks don't generate momentum, Edison explained, they generate complacency. Impossible tasks don't generate momentum, they generate discouragement. But appropriately challenging tasks generate genuine momentum that carries forward into increasingly difficult work. Edison's approach was to sequence his daily activities in order of increasing difficulty, with each completed task building energy and confidence for the next challenge, the neuroscience of momentum. What these masters understood intuitively has since been validated by neuroscience research. The human brain releases dopamine and other motivation-enhancing chemicals in response to completed actions and perceived progress. This chemical response creates genuine physiological momentum that makes continued action feel natural and enjoyable. The key insight is that these chemical rewards are triggered by completion and progress, not by planning or intention. This is why the masters focused on completing small actions immediately rather than planning large actions for the future. The daily momentum creation ritual. Based on my research with these achievement masters, here's their systematic approach to creating daily momentum that eliminates procrastination. The first hour foundation. All of the masters began their day with immediate action on meaningful work. They understood that the first hour of the day established the psychological tone for the entire day. Within the first hour of waking, complete at least one meaningful task related to your most important goal. This task should require genuine effort, but be completely achievable within the time available. Avoid checking email, social media, or news during this first hour, as these activities create reactive rather than proactive psychological states. The progressive challenge sequence. Edison's approach was to arrange daily tasks in order of increasing difficulty, allowing each completion to build energy and confidence for the next challenge. List your day's most important tasks in order of increasing difficulty or complexity. Begin with tasks that are challenging enough to require focus but easy enough to complete successfully. Allow each completion to generate momentum for more demanding work. The completion celebration practice. The masters had learned to acknowledge and celebrate task completion, even for small activities. This practice reinforced the psychological reward system that generates motivation for continued action. After completing each meaningful task, take a moment to acknowledge your progress and feel satisfaction with your accomplishment. This conscious celebration reinforces the neural pathways associated with completion and forward progress. The weekly momentum amplification. Beyond daily practices, the masters also implemented weekly momentum amplification strategies that built cumulative energy over time. The weekly progress review. Each week, the masters would review their accomplishments and specifically identify how each completed action had contributed to their larger objectives. This practice created a sense of cumulative progress that generated motivation for continued effort. The momentum investment principle. The masters understood that momentum could be invested by using high-energy periods to tackle the most challenging and important tasks. They learned to recognize their peak momentum periods and strategically allocate their most demanding work to these times. The momentum protection strategy. Perhaps most importantly, the masters had learned to protect their momentum from activities and influences that could drain their psychological energy. They identified momentum drains, activities, people, or environments that consistently reduce their energy and motivation. They then systematically eliminated or minimized these drains to preserve their psychological resources for important work. The compound effect of consistent momentum. What all these masters discovered was that consistent daily momentum creation produced compound effects over time. Each day of immediate action made the next day's action easier. Each week of sustained momentum made the following week's challenges more manageable. This compound effect eventually created what I call achievement automation, a psychological state where taking immediate action on important work becomes more natural and comfortable than delay and procrastination. Principle 7. The Vision to Action Bridge. The final missing piece. In all my years of research, interviewing over 500 of America's most successful individuals, I discovered that there was one final principle that separated the true masters from those who achieved only modest success. This principle bridged the gap between having grand visions and taking the daily actions necessary to realize those visions. During my final interview with Andrew Carnegie, he shared what he considered his most important discovery about human achievement. Hill, he said, most people fail not because they lack vision, but because they cannot connect their daily actions to their ultimate vision. They see the destination clearly, but cannot perceive the bridge. This insight led me to investigate what I came to call the Vision to Action Bridge, the mental and practical framework that allows extraordinary individuals to maintain consistent action toward long-term goals. The Carnegie Visualization System. Carnegie had developed what he called his daily vision connection ritual, a systematic practice for connecting immediate tasks to ultimate objectives. Every morning, Carnegie would spend 15 minutes visualizing the completion of his most important life goals, then systematically trace the connection between his planned daily activities and these ultimate achievements. Most people think of visualization as wishful thinking, Carnegie explained, but true visualization is action planning. When you can see the direct connection between today's work and tomorrow's achievement, procrastination becomes psychologically impossible. Carnegie's approach was remarkably practical. He would visualize not just the end result, but the specific sequence of actions and milestones that would lead to that result. This practice transformed abstract goals into concrete action plans. The Ford systematic breakdown method. Henry Ford approached this challenge with his characteristic engineering precision. Ford had developed a systematic method for breaking down any large objective into daily, weekly, and monthly action steps. The reason most people procrastinate on important goals, Ford explained, is that they only see the magnitude of the complete achievement. When you can only see the entire mountain, climbing it seems impossible. But when you can see the next step clearly, taking that step becomes simple and natural. Ford's method involved what he called reverse engineering success. He would start with the completed goal and work backward, identifying each prerequisite achievement, each necessary milestone, and each required daily action. The Edison experimental progression. Thomas Edison brought his inventor's mindset to the challenge of connecting vision to action. Edison viewed the achievement of any major goal as a series of experiments, each building on the knowledge gained from previous attempts. Most people abandon their goals because they expect linear progress toward a fixed outcome, Edison explained. But achievement is actually an experimental process where each action provides feedback that improves the next action. Edison's approach eliminated the frustration and discouragement that typically led to procrastination. Since every action was viewed as a valuable experiment rather than a pass or fail test, taking action became psychologically safe and intellectually interesting. The Roosevelt courage building system. Theodore Roosevelt had discovered that the bridge between vision and action required systematic courage development. Many people procrastinated not because they lacked clarity about necessary actions, but because they lacked confidence in their ability to execute those actions successfully. Roosevelt's solution was to build what he called progressive courage through systematic exposure to increasingly challenging actions. He would deliberately practice taking bold action in low-stakes situations to build the psychological capacity for bold action in high-stakes situations. Courage is like a muscle, Roosevelt explained. It grows stronger through progressive exercise and atrophies through disuse. If you want to take courageous action on your most important goals, you must practice courage daily on smaller challenges. Implementing the Vision to Action Bridge. Based on my research with these achievement masters, here's their systematic approach to connecting vision with daily action. The Daily Vision Connection Ritual. Begin each day by spending 10 minutes connecting your planned activities to your ultimate objectives. Use this specific process. Visualize the successful completion of your most important life goal. See yourself experiencing the emotions, relationships, and lifestyle that this achievement will provide. Now identify how today's planned activities contribute to this ultimate achievement. For each major task planned for the day, explicitly identify how its completion moves you closer to your ultimate vision. This practice transforms routine tasks into meaningful steps toward your deepest desires. The weekly progress visualization. Each week, spend time visualizing the cumulative progress you've made toward your major goals. This practice reinforces the connection between daily actions and long-term achievement while building motivation for continued effort. Identify specific evidence of progress from the previous week. Visualize how this progress has moved you closer to your ultimate objectives. Plan the coming week's activities based on continuing this progressive momentum. The monthly milestone review. Monthly, conduct a comprehensive review of your progress using the Master's systematic approach. Assess your cumulative progress toward major goals over the previous month. Identify which daily and weekly activities produce the most significant advancement. Adjust your daily and weekly practices based on this evidence to maximize future progress. The bridge strengthening practices. The Masters also employed specific practices to strengthen the psychological connection between present action and future achievement. The success story visualization. Regularly spend time creating detailed mental movies of your life after achieving your major goals. Include specific details about your daily routine, your relationships, your environment, and your emotional experience. The more vivid and detailed these visualizations, the stronger the psychological pull toward the daily actions necessary for achievement. The legacy perspective practice. The Masters often motivated themselves by considering the long-term impact of their current choices. They would ask themselves, what kind of person will I become if I take this action consistently? And what kind of life will I create if I maintain these daily practices? This perspective transformed daily decisions from isolated choices into character-building practices that shape their entire future. The compound vision effect. What all these masters discovered was that consistent practice of connecting vision to action created a compound effect that dramatically accelerated their achievement. The daily practice of visualization and connection gradually rewired their subconscious minds to automatically seek and recognize opportunities that supported their goals. Over time, this practice created what I call achievement magnetism, a psychological state where opportunities, resources, and relationships naturally align to support the achievement of their clearly defined objectives. The Transformation Protocol, your complete system for eliminating procrastination. Now that you understand the 7 fundamental principles that every master of achievement uses to eliminate procrastination permanently, it's time to integrate these principles into a systematic daily practice. The masters didn't apply these principles randomly or occasionally. They built them into systematic daily routines that guaranteed consistent implementation. The Daily Achievement Routine. Based on my 20 years of research, here is the exact daily routine that incorporates all 7 principles. Morning foundation. First 30 minutes. Upon waking, immediately engage in the momentum creation ritual. Complete one meaningful task related to your definite purpose before checking any external communications. This establishes immediate forward progress and creates psychological momentum for the entire day. Next, perform the vision connection practice. Spend 10 minutes visualizing your major goals and explicitly connecting your planned daily activities to these ultimate achievements. This activates the vision to action bridge and ensures that every action feels meaningful and urgent. Daily Action Protocol. Throughout the day, implement the Decisive Moment Mastery System. When faced with any decision, gather sufficient information quickly and make your choice within minutes rather than hours or days. Use the emotional mastery techniques whenever you feel resistance to important tasks. Change your physical posture, breathe deeply, and remind yourself of your definite purpose before taking action. Evening review and preparation. Each evening, conduct a brief review using the accountability system principles. Assess your progress on stated commitments and identify areas for improvement tomorrow. This creates internal accountability and continuous refinement of your action-taking ability. Prepare your environment for tomorrow's success using the environment design strategy. Organize your workspace, eliminate distractions, and position materials for immediate access to important work. The weekly integration practice. Weekly, implement a more comprehensive integration of all 7 principles. Sunday planning session. Each Sunday, spend 1 hour planning the coming week using all 7 principles simultaneously. Review your definite purpose and connect the week's activities to this ultimate objective. Plan specific daily actions that will create momentum and forward progress. Identify potential emotional challenges and prepare specific strategies for maintaining action despite resistance. Review your environment for optimization opportunities and make necessary adjustments. Friday Progress Review. Each Friday, assess your week's progress and identify which principles supported your success and which need strengthening. This systematic review ensures continuous improvement in your ability to take immediate action on important work. The Monthly Mastery Development. Monthly, focus on deepening your mastery of one specific principle while maintaining the others. This progressive mastery approach ensures that you develop expertise in each area rather than superficial familiarity. Month 1, focus on clarifying and strengthening your definite purpose. Month 2, develop your mastermind accountability relationships. Month 3, practice and refine your decisive moment mastery. Continue this pattern throughout the year. The Compound Transformation. What you'll discover as you implement this systematic approach is that eliminating procrastination creates compound benefits that extend far beyond productivity. Taking immediate action on your most important goals builds confidence, which creates momentum, which attracts opportunities, which accelerates achievement. Within 90 days of consistent implementation, you'll notice that taking action feels more natural than delay. Within 6 months, you'll have developed what I call achievement automaticity, the ability to take appropriate action instinctively without internal struggle or resistance. The ultimate achievement state. The masters I interviewed had all reached what I consider the ultimate psychological state. They found it easier to take action than to procrastinate. Their nervous systems had been so thoroughly conditioned for immediate action that delay felt uncomfortable while forward progress felt natural and satisfying. This state isn't achieved through willpower or motivation, but through the systematic application of proven principles until new neural pathways are established. The 7 principles you've learned today provide the complete framework for achieving this transformation in your own life. Call to action. Your moment of decision. The Carnegie Challenge. My friends, I want to leave you with the same challenge that Andrew Carnegie presented to me over a century ago, the challenge that changed the entire trajectory of my life and led to the discovery of the principles you've learned today. Carnegie looked me straight in the eye and said, "Hill, you now possess information that could transform your life and the lives of everyone you care about. But information without implementation is merely entertainment. The question that will determine your future is this: what will you do with what you now know?" That question haunted me until I took action, and today I present the same question to you: the power of immediate implementation. Every master I interviewed emphasized the same crucial truth: the value of knowledge is determined entirely by the speed and consistency of its application. The principles you've learned today have the power to eliminate procrastination permanently and transform you into a person of immediate action and consistent achievement. But these principles are worthless unless you implement them starting right now, today, within the next 24 hours. You've learned the 7 fundamental principles that separate masters from mediocre performers, the definite purpose foundation that makes every action feel urgent and meaningful, the Mastermind accountability system that harnesses social psychology to guarantee follow-through, the decisive moment mastery that eliminates analysis paralysis forever, the emotional mastery system that allows you to take action regardless of how you feel, the environment design strategy that makes your surroundings support rather than sabotage your success, the momentum multiplication method that turns small actions into unstoppable forward progress, the vision to action bridge that connects your daily work to your ultimate destiny. The urgency of this moment. There is something critically important that I must share with you before we part company today. Carnegie taught me that there are decisive moments in every person's life, moments when they must choose between the path of achievement and the path of mediocrity. Today is one of those moments for you. You can choose to implement these principles immediately and begin your transformation into a master of achievement, or you can choose to postpone action and remain trapped in the cycle of procrastination that has held you back until now. But understand this clearly: there is no neutral ground. Every day you delay implementing these principles is another day that procrastination strengthens its grip on your life and your dreams move further from reality. Your commitment to the Mastermind community. If you're ready to join the ranks of the action takers and achievement masters, then I want you to become part of our Napoleon Hill Mastermind Journeys community. Subscribe to this channel right now, not tomorrow, not next week, but immediately after this video ends. When you subscribe, you're not just accessing more content, you're making a public declaration that you're committed to implementing these principles and transforming your relationship with action and achievement. And make sure to ring that notification bell, because I'll be sharing advanced strategies, specific implementation techniques, and success stories from individuals who have used these principles to achieve extraordinary results. Every notification will be a reminder of your commitment to immediate action and continuous growth. The question that will determine your future. Now I want to ask you the most important question you'll face today, a question that requires deep personal reflection and honest self-assessment. What is the one area of your life where procrastination has cost you the most progress toward your most important goals? And what specific action will you take within the next 24 hours to break this pattern and begin implementing these principles? This isn't a question that can be answered with a simple yes or no. It requires you to identify your greatest area of challenge and commit to specific action with a concrete timeline. It requires you to move from passive consumption of information to active implementation of principles. Share your commitment. I want you to answer this question in the comments section below, not because I need to know your answer, but because you need to make your commitment public. Remember Carnegie's principle: public commitments create psychological pressure that supports follow-through, while private commitments are easily abandoned. When you write your specific commitment in the comments, you're activating the same accountability system that Carnegie, Ford, Edison, and Roosevelt used to guarantee their own success. You're joining a community of individuals who are committed to immediate action and mutual support. The ripple effect of your transformation. But don't stop with your own transformation. Share this video with someone in your life who struggles with procrastination and delay. When you help others implement these principles, you strengthen your own commitment while contributing to a movement of individuals who refuse to accept mediocrity. Every person you help transform becomes part of a growing network of achievers who support and encourage each other's continued growth. This is how movements are built, one transformed individual at a time. The final challenge, and now I present you with the ultimate challenge that every master must face. Will you choose the path of immediate action and inevitable achievement, or will you choose the path of continued delay and persistent mediocrity? This choice cannot be postponed. This decision cannot be delegated. This moment cannot be recaptured. Your future is being determined right now by the choice you make in response to what you've learned today. The masters I interviewed had all faced this same moment of decision. They all had to choose between the comfort of familiar patterns and the challenge of transformational growth. Every one of them told me that this choice was the turning point that separated their previous life of limitation from their subsequent life of achievement. The timeless truth. Let me leave you with the words that Carnegie spoke to me at the end of our final interview, words that have guided my entire life's work and have the power to guide yours as well. The world has a way of making room for the person whose words and actions show that they know where they are going. But it has no patience for those who merely dream of someday taking action toward their goals. The question that remains is simple but profound. Which person will you choose to become? The principles are in your hands. The choice is before you. The moment is now. What will you do with what you now know? Remember, subscribe to Napoleon Hill Mastermind Journeys. Ring that notification bell, share your commitment in the comments below, and take your first specific action within the next 24 hours. Your transformation begins the moment you decide it begins. That moment is now.